can go ahead and start. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat as uh, the webinar proceeds.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. And you are very welcome to this session. Um, Let me introduce myself. My name is Eduardo Lopez. I will be the presenter for this webinar, Building a Threat Protection Practice with Microsoft. We have approximately 90 minutes of content, so feel free to ask any question at any time. We are not going to answer questions when we see it. We are going to designate some time, for example, um, to answer to the questions but you can just keep posting your questions in the chat because of the time purposes on it. I can see that we are approximately 20 people connected, so you are very welcome. Recording will be available. So let's start with this and taking a look at the agenda. Um, we are looking at the threat landscape briefing, security operations centers today, transforming security operations also via unified platform. We're also going to describe some example threat scenarios, um, technology for the threat intelligence from Microsoft, um, and how can we integrate together and use it a unified platform for that, as well as a closing and the next steps. And I'm planning to just present a quick guided demonstration using the platform of Defender XDR, basically, at the end of the session. We can take a break at the middle of the session, maybe 5 or 10 minutes for break, depending on the time, will be okay. Um, so, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. Um, so,
Oh, that's the
cybersecurity here. Be careful with your microphone, guys, also because we can hear some audio from that. Make sure that you are muted if you are not participating or if you are not, you don't have a question or something like that. Please, I would like to confirm that you can see my screen right now, and you should be, and that you can hear me okay, that the audio is okay. You can give me a reaction, for example, like a thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you for your confirmation, guys. So now I know that you are paying attention also. Eventually, I will ask you for a couple of reactions on it. So nowadays we have cybersecurity and threat protection in particular, um, and it's a challenge for every organization. We know that. So for today's presentation, we will share some of the threat intelligence from Microsoft threat researchers and the front lines before diving into how this is translating to a SOC personnel on. So, and we will show or the vision from Microsoft for helping solve the challenges that the SOC is facing and have. Uh, we'll dive into a few different scenarios like a ransomware, business email compromise, investigation and response, and identities also. So let's get started. Um, Microsoft is now analyzing approximately 78 trillion signals every day, and they are tracking more than 300 unique threat actors. And this gives us a complete view of the overall threat landscape. And these different type of cyber attacks, including the nation state threat actors, are typically the most well resourced and on the cutting edge of tooling tactics. Um, and they often sell their services, rising the lethality of the industry as a whole. So while our organization might not be targeted directly by one, we need to be ready also to defend um, against them basically on it. And 80 to 90% of all successful ransomware compromises, they originate um, through unmanaged devices. And human operated ransomware attacks are up to more than 200% on. So ransomware operators are shifting heavily toward hands-on keyboard attacks, using living off the land techniques and remote encryption to conceal their tracks, and also for exfiltrating the data to add some pressure to the ransom demands also. But the good news is that for the organizations with it, that applying a strong security posture with multiple layers, the likelihood of an attack succeeding is pretty low based on the numbers and the research. And typically, an attack is stopped in the pre-ransom stage, with on average 2% of attacks progressing to a successful ransomware deployment. Um, and Microsoft pushes a lot the zero trust strategy that specifies to um, never trust and always verify, and we can apply multiple layers of protection for that. Um, and when hundreds of millions of requests per second originating 10 from 10 of thousands of devices constitute an attack, like a distributed denial of service, for example, usually the infrastructure distributed in the cloud, like Azure, for example, is our best defense to use the method of absorption. Um, due to the scale needed to mitigate a type of attack like that, for example. We let's take a quick look at a specific threat actor to see how these trends might impact a typical organization in this case. We have the example of the Octo Tempest. This is a financially motivated cybercriminal group that has been observed targeting multiple organizations with varying objectives depending on the target, including conducting the SIM swaps. This type of technique are the attackers, let's say, uh, try to cheat on the cellular foreign companies on it to migrate my phone number, for example, to his, and then to be able to access to the SMS code, for example, and trying to attack the multi-factor authentication from there, or trying to just selling push or notifications, for example, to different the targets on. Other type of cyber threats are stealing cryptocurrency or exfiltrating data prior to extortion or ransomware operations also. And Octop Tempest was initially seen a couple of years ago in early 2022, targeting the mobile telecommunications. Uh, and in the late 2022 and the early 2023 last year, Octotempest expanded their targeting to include some cable telecommunications, the email technology organizations also. And during that period, Octotempest started to monetizing intrusions by extorting the victim for organizations for the data stolen during their intrusion operations, and in some cases even resorting to physical threats on it. So, and these well organized and prolific nature of these Octotempest attacks, it's an indication of extensive technical depth and the multiple hands-on keyboard operators. And looking at the attack chain that we can see here on the slide, we can see that it leveraged their expertise in MFA, in multi-factor authentication tampering, to steal credentials um, through a password reset procedure, for example, using one of their own phone numbers. And after logging in, they begin their reconnaissance and start accessing the files. But fortunately, these actions trigger an alert, and in in-depth understanding of this threat actor allows Defender, Microsoft Defender, for example, to flag these activities. Um, and the possible Octotempest related sign in with a 99.99999% 6 nines of confidence. With this identification, the system can trigger the disruption and stopping the attacker's progress, basically. And this attack shows the importance of being responsive to active threats in every environment on it, and even when we have the MFA enable on it. So the threat actor was able uh, to gain entry, basically. We know that the threat actors are creative also, and they will use this new tool, the generative AIs. There's multiple versions on it. Microsoft has its own Microsoft Copilot, for example, and it's multiple versions on it. Microsoft 365 Copilot, for example, the one that we can see integrated into the productivity tools from Microsoft, Word, Outlook, Excel, etc. And there's other versions like the particularly, and one of the sections into this webinar, we are going to talk about the Copilot for Security, a Gen AI tool that uses that we can interact with them with natural language, um, that can help us as a virtual assistant to detect and to respond to the threat, because we can see the tool embedded into the Defender portal or into the Copilot for Security standalone option. Uh, but the convenience of having embedded into the existing platform and the tools that maybe we already know and that we already operate, we can see a good convenience on that. And we can see that into the final demo on it, when we can see that the virtual assistant, the embedded version, can help us to going for an investigation and detecting and describing the type of attack. For example, in that case, it will be a script attack in PowerShell, basically. But the attackers will use eventually the Gen AI in all kinds of creative and persistent ways on it. For example, the Forest Blizzard, Emerald Sleet, Crimson Sandstorm, Charcoal Typhoon, for example, from different places, from Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, etc. Um, they are seeking assistance in basic scripting tasks, including file manipulation, data selection, regular expressions on it. Uh, the Emerald Sleet is interacting with the large language models to understand the vulnerabilities, to complete the basic scripting task, and using the large language models for assistance creating content like for spare phishing, for example, or creating uh, different type of phishing emails to lure prominent feminists to an attacker build website on feminism, generating code snippets and develop code to evade um, detection. And they will eventually use it for all of the type of attacks and tactics available, basically, to improve the is different techniques to attack, basically. So how is this affecting the security operations centers or the SOC? When we talk to the CISOs and their security teams, Microsoft is consistently hearing how the day-to-day workflow of the analysts is involved in spending significant time filling the gaps left by their current tools. And many of the security teams we talk, or the Microsoft talk to, use over 80 dedicated cybersecurity tools right now. So there's like a multiple uh, isolated tools that eventually, because well, the cyber attacks are becoming so advanced and extended that it is difficult to find a single tool that can help us to detect, mitigate, and respond. Basically, that is one of the conveniences of using the unified platform um, provided by Microsoft. So uh, they use an average of 80 dedicated cybersecurity tools right now. And this means that most security teams have a patchwork of tools to defend their entire digital state. Um, and as a result, they are defending in silos and thinking in different in lists, basically. Some tools for the email and collaboration, and maybe more than one sometimes. Some other tools for the identity, basically. Other ones for the endpoints, other for the applied and the clouds, and other for data, basically having isolated silos for that. And they use an overall on it. So, and meanwhile, attackers are thinking in graphs uh, by expertly traversing across the network, across these different or these many uh, entities, the emails, the identities, the endpoints, the applications in the cloud, and the data. And this forces the security teams to manually translate their list to alerts into an incident map while under pressure from potentially in progress attacks also. The median time for an attacker to access private data from phishing is just 72 minutes, for example, as an average. And as the past couple of slides, attacks are happening in minutes and hours. Security teams don't have days or months to respond anymore, uh, because we have witnessed entire campaigns that only lasted a few minutes, and some attackers will start moving laterally uh, as little as 5 minutes after a malicious email is clicked, for example. And as long as defenders are stuck working in this isolated silos, attackers will have an edge being able to move between all the seams on it. So all this leaves little time for the analyst to focus on a high value task, like remediating multi-stage incidents fully or even decreasing the likelihood of future attacks by reducing the attack surface. Um, so with an ever growing that gap in the supply and demand of the talent, there are only enough cybersecurity professionals to meet the 80% of the United States demand, for example. And something must change here. And in simply put, security teams need a force multiplier for that. And the SOCs have too much security data stored in too many places right now, and most SOC teams lacks the tools to effectively bring it all together, normalize it, apply the advanced analytics, and enrich with the threat intelligence and act on the insights across the entire digital state. Tools like extended detection response, or also known as short for the XDR, are bringing these capabilities required by the today's SOC teams needs. But this challenge simply isn't something that can be solved by one individual tool, basically. So SOCs need to the full capabilities of a security information and event management system, or SIEM, XDR, CSPM, cloud security posture management, security for the cloud applications or the cloud apps, and so on. Yeah, exposure management, generative AI, and threat intelligence together, basically. And built from the ground up for the security operations, the the Microsoft have built in one unified platform, and where it integrates multiple tools. The SIM tool represented by the Microsoft Sentinel service on it. Defender XDR for extended detection and response that we can access from the security.microsoft.com platform if we have the proper subscription for that. Starting with a Microsoft 365, for example, and different plans that we can just use for that. Security exposure management, Copilot for security, the Gen AI specifically for helping us to assist in cybersecurity events, and the Microsoft Threat Intelligence, all into a single experience with a unified incident queue, with a single data model, tailor assistance, continuous risk assessment, and attack path modeling also, and automated protection and remediation on. So, and this platform starts with a foundation of a global threat intelligence that delivers the industry broadest view of the threat landscape. And the expert human researchers and the AI, they can pour over 78 trillion signals daily to develop that deep understanding of the threat actors and their tooling to build the research back detections. Also, from we can just the this platform one just help for the security professionals to supercharge or to improve their skills on. Uh, we can use it for usually the experiences from the adopters. They can collaborate better and they can catch attacks that may be missed due to that tool isolation or fragmentation, and including the other factors like the talent shortage. And the built-in intelligence is truly creating a force multiplier to help us to outpace those adversaries and strengthen our team's expertise on, and defend at the machine speed and the scale. And this really comes to life when we think about the typical threat lifecycle. Historically, security teams have done their best to prevent attacks, but most of their time and energy is absorbed by detection and response. Response used to be fully manual, and after an attack is stopped, a good security teams use what they learned from the incident to improve their prevent preventative measures, basically. And this whole process is usually um, slow, it's prone to errors also, and simply that it's not sustainable. But what Microsoft is building now is a system that autonomously closes that loop and effectively creates an immune system that enables or the customers to implement a proactive and an automated approach to the threat zone. So, for example, automatic attack disruption stops the attacks that are in progress faster than a human can react, basically. And this is similar to an automatic braking in new cars. It is there for when things don't go well, basically, or for emergencies, or and it gives or the customer the security and the security teams a bit more time to investigate an incident, ensuring that full remediation instead of being rushed, trying to limit the ongoing damage. And with this unified, assisted, and intelligently assisted investigation experience, the analyst can respond faster and really accelerate the response. And with the post incident posture recommendations, they will have both the bandwidth and the guidance on how to prevent these repeat attacks. But prevention should not stop there. Using all the threat intelligence, understanding the customer's environment, and the integration between these multiple tools, the analysts can use these exposure management tools that help them to think in graphs, like the attackers with attack path mapping that link together vulnerabilities to uncover the potential attack chains. Um, and the so far the unified the analyst experience in generative AI is now delivering real impact. 80% reported a possible reduction in the incidents, 88% reduction in the threat mitigation, and 60% reported to reduce risk in a material breach on it. So this isn't something we're still building. It's there and the value is already real. The partners or the early customers are seeing that 80% reduction of those incidents or the unification, and the mean time to respond improved by 88%. Uh, and all of this results in a 60% reduction into the risk of a breach, basically. Now let's take a look at a real case study from Microsoft Threat Research, and this is a real attack that the platform detected and eventually disrupted. Uh, it was a lockbit remote encryption case study that, as we can see, was detected um, on the last October 19, 2023, with a type of attack that attacking the remote desktop connections to a domain controllers, attempting to execute the mimikatz to steal credentials on multiple accounts. Um, at the different times, at 9:47, then at the 10:12, there were detected different type of attacks, the hands-on keyboard scenarios, um, disconnection from RDP sessions from multiple scanners, and ransomware scenarios also. And the platform was able to just detect and mitigate the attack in this case. If we take a look at the evolution of the cyber attacks, because they are just they adapt very quick to the technology, and they just use the technology to also eventually improve and make more damage, basically. So we can see that attackers think very different today than they did 10 years ago. Attackers went from targeting individual systems using a single domain to the entire company across multiple domains. And when it started, ransomware objective was to get execution on any system. and then programmatically proceed to encrypt the files in that system and demanding the ransom. And it was unlikely to cause catastrophic business disruption, and defense via the malware prevention with was sufficient to protect against these threats on it. But today, human operated ransomware leveraged the playbook of advanced nation state actors where a threat actor targets an entire company. And these attacks are custom built for a target network and involve the high value data encryption and ad filtration also. And these attacks are guaranteed to cause catastrophic and damage with visible business disruption. And so protecting against these types of attacks requires a holistic security approach that can resist persistence from an attacker on it. And now we're dealing with hackers directly and not just with a malware, basically. And human operated ransomware, um, like the hands on keyboard, this type of attackers target an organization and use their insights into common system and security misconfigurations to infiltrate the organization, navigating through the network, adapt to the environment, and detecting its weaknesses. But Defender XDR can help us to detect this malicious activity at the pre-ransom stage and containing the user, basically. Other type of common attacks nowadays is the business email compromise or the VEC. With a VEC, attacks commonly involve cyber criminals impersonating a company executive or a vendor to try to trick the employees into transferring money or sensitive information, with this causing a financial loss and reputational damage also for the organization. So Defender XDR recognizes the sequence of events related to this pattern of attack, the VEC, and disable the user automatically, for example. Other type of attacks are common, are nowadays attacks, is the attacker in the middle or the AITM. So during an AITM attack, a phish user interacts with an impersonated site created by the attacker, allowing them to intercept credentials and session cookies and also bypassing the MFA. And Defender XDR can detect the suspicious network connection and disable the user. Um, there's also other type of attack like the SAP financial fraud scenario. There's always an entry point and careful lateral movement to achieve for the attacker's objective. And in this case, the delivery mechanism was a phishing email that our recipient was or has inadvertently clicked on. So PowerShell scripts install a ransomware package, which allows the attacker to begin to cover their tracks and spread across the organization. And eventually, through exploring or credential breaches and privilege escalation, they have been able to access the data and or the infrastructure they targeted and exploit it for ransomware. So Defender XDR also detects this data exfiltration and disable the user in both SAP and into the Cloud Directory service like IntraID, for example. Um, we can see here from the numbers of the slide that the impact for the organization is 2.73 million of ransomware recovery cost usually with the first two type of attacks, human operated ransomware and business email compromise on. 3 minutes to disrupt the ransomware attack even earlier in the kill chain, including the hands-on keyboard, SAP financial fraud, the adversary in the middle, and the 93% of organizations have experienced two or more breaches due to identity theft, with attacks like identity compromise and the open authentication app disruption also. So to make this real, with what we can already deliver with attack disruption is very different than a typical detection. Today, we can disrupt ransomware and BC AITM scenarios in an average of 3 minutes And we recently helped disrupt more than 1,000 incidents in a month and disable more than 3,000 user accounts um, uh, in the prior 6 months that were attacked and coupled with that saved over 100,000 devices. And we took a conservative approach to this with a 99% confidence. So false positives are less of a challenge, but just one customer story. A customer had Microsoft protecting their clients and other assets, and another vendor protecting their server endpoints, and an attacker came in on 10 different entry points and waves across 10 different compromised domain users and with three spread IPs. So the attacker targeted roughly 2,000 devices, and attack disruption saved the 97% of those. Um, Forrester Wave leadership, but this validated E5 security, that is the most comprehensive threat protection offering for customers, with that is including Defender XDR as the broadest native solution on the market. Microsoft has the most data-rich endpoint info in this evaluation. And other differentiation areas, it's including the investigation and the artificial intelligence, shows the leadership in machine learning and generative AI with the Copilot for Security tool. And Microsoft scored higher than the Palo Alto and the CrowdStrike across these areas, basically. Now let's think in graph with the incidents and try to break down these silos, or these isolated tools and silos with a unified portal experience. Let's take a moment to look at how today's current security complexities are manifesting on. We know that parts of these attacks can take weeks and months to execute as attackers uh, move laterally across the network, but data exfiltration can be completed in minutes on it. So, and we also know that detecting, responding, and successfully remediating these attacks is a slow process involving different security groups and requiring different tools also. But it's not uncommon for the enterprise to have more than 45 cybersecurity tools at the same time on it. And it requires um, orchestration to ensure that each of these point solutions are working together to ensure nothing slips through the cracks. So, and in reality, integration between the different security solutions is often inconsistent, but some may pass information well, others may require manual intervention uh, and be slow on. But the more point solutions we have across the kill chain, the more inconsistent the sharing of the information. So this can create delays and increases the risk of a breach, for example. The net challenge is how our security professionals view the alerts. The the, the ones in position to respond, to inform, to figure out that something is happening, um, whether through separate portals and together in a traditional SIEM tool. The inconsistency of signal sharing puts our security operations teams and their tooling at a disadvantage. And they don't have the most accurate information, which can lead to wasted time at best or the cost of a breach at the worst in this case. So usually, if you are working with multiple isolated or spread tools on it, you need to have access to the email management or email cybersecurity management portal, endpoints also, identities portals on it, cloud applications on it, workloads like the cloud workloads and so on, and a lot of time and effort into the management and orchestration for all these um, silos or these different tools that you can combine into an environment. And that is how we get the unified security operations platform in the Defender portal. taking the best of the SIEM capabilities, like using the Microsoft Sentinel, the customization and the breadth of protection and the XDR or extended detection response, including automatic response, out of the box rules, and bring them together with the Gen AI and posture management. And beyond that, functionalities that previously existed in each product are now merged for more comprehensive features than ever before. Now let's see into a section of how can we reduce our risk exposure on it with a unified exposure management system. Recent analysis of about 1,000 companies found just 30% of vulnerabilities observed were remediated and took an average of 271 days for security teams to address them. And 99% of the attacks were mitigated by a basic security hygiene. That's the information about collected from different clients. And this is only getting worse. So why our risk management process are still just uh, reactive, basically? Um, the according to the Edge scan, the average time taken to remediate an internet-facing vulnerabilities was 57.5 days. And this is a slight improvement over the year prior when the MTTR mean time to recovery was 60.3 days. And this varies from one industry to another. But public administration, for instance, had an MTTR of 92 days, whereas the healthcare organizations had an MTTR of 44 days. The data shows that the smaller an affected organization is, the more quickly it tends to recover. Basically. So nowadays, security teams' reality is complex because over the last couple of years, the customers adopted new interconnected technologies that increase their attack surface. Uh, Organizations tend to go multi-cloud also. Multi-cloud strategies, adoption of hundreds of software as a service applications are introducing risk to the organization. Distributed data stores, new device types, and multiple identity fabrics also. So to adapt to that, to battle that, the customers acquired dozens of security tools, 80 as an average, from dozens of different vendors. Um, and while the technologies they adopted are interconnected, the security tools that are supposed to protect them are disconnected. So this creates a fragmented risk view for defenders and the inability to get an attacker perspective. And furthermore, these tools generate a huge amount of security data that without meaningful context and focus prevent efficient decision making. So the results we have uh, a reactive protection because most customers live in a false sense of security and are not getting the return of investment from the tools that they bought. And how can we just proactively improve posture and reduce exposure on it by using the unification on? If in one specific place we can either discover our attack surface, understand our threat exposure, prioritize the risk reduction. We have a unified asset inventory, critical asset management, an attack surface map features, automatic attack path discovery, security initiatives, metrics, as well as generate automatically receive security recommendations and following a series of steps to improve the security posture, we can just alleviate that administration perspective, basically. And the advance in technology that make our work or daily uh, activities easier, basically, and more flexible. Also, create opportunities for the adversaries seeking more effective ways to launch cyber attacks. Um, with Microsoft, we can implement a zero trust strategy. A zero trust strategy is critical for helping us to keep organizations safe in an era when the attacks against passwords, networks, and applications continue to increase every day, basically. So, a proactive zero trust security strategy unifies the defenses across multiple elements: identities, endpoints, policy optimization, zero trust policies, threat protection, network infrastructure, data, applications, for example. So, while individual tools are typically used to fulfill requirements across each zero trust pillar, a truly comprehensive strategy connects them together through a centralized access policy engine and integrated threat protections. And this delivers defense in depth security across our on premise, hybrid, and including multi cloud environment. And buying individual solutions and building a comprehensive architecture from scratch, it's a complicated effort for most organizations. Uh, we have designed, or Microsoft had designed, the security offering from the ground up to enable that zero trust. Never trust, but always verify at every stage. And delivering this built in integration with unified policies, controls, and automation to accelerate our implementation and strengthen our security posture. So our unified security operations platform brings together all the security signals that our environment generates, then normalizes, analyzes, and uses them to proactively defend uh, against threats. And if something is detected, let me just return a little bit. If something is detected at each of these uh, components or elements or each of these signals, um, we can see a unify, for example, Defender portal, an incident section where we can correlate and see all of the elements involved, either if there's users, documents, applications, cloud workloads, identity issues, for example, application problems, or from a specific data store or something like that, or a risk introduced by an endpoint, a device, for example, that we are using it, mobile or a laptop computer, workstation, or a server, physical, including virtual, inside or outside our public cloud infrastructure, for example, or into our private cloud also, because usually we can use agents to collect the information and concentrate the information from the platform, the security platform on the cloud in Microsoft, for example. So a zero trust approach should extend throughout the entire digital state and serve as an integrated security philosophy and end-to-end strategy. Here, the identities, whether they represent people or workloads or endpoints or IoT devices, define the zero trust control plane. When an identity attempts to access a resource, we need to verify that identity with a strong authentication and ensure access is compliant and typical for that identity and follows that least privileged access principles. Talking about endpoints, once an identity has been granted access to a resource, and that we just verify that that's the real user signing in with authentication, authorization, and with a proper level of access, with permissions and policies, uh, data can flow when a user has been granted access to a resource. Data can flow to a variety of different devices, from IoT devices, Internet of Things, to smartphones, to bring your own device, to partner managed devices, and to on premise workloads to cloud hosted servers. And this diversity creates a massive attack surface area on it. So, requiring that we need to monitor and enforce device health and compliance for secure access on it. So in the Microsoft Defender platform, we have Defender for Endpoint that can help us to enroll devices and endpoints to the platform, and we can monitor and control those endpoints basically. Now, into the application component, applications and APIs provide the interface by which the data is consumed. Once that a user authenticate, once that a user is using a device, is authorized to use or consume a device, the way to access to the data is through the APIs or through the applications on it. So applications and APIs provide that interface by which the data is consumed, and they they may be legacy or on-premises or lifted and shifted to cloud workloads or modern software as a service applications. Controls and technology should be applied to discover shadow IT. Shadow IT refers to the list or the inventory of applications that are consumed by the clients in our organization, but without the organization knowledge. So maybe I'm just consuming an application to store data in some public cloud or something like that, and my organization doesn't even know about that. That I'm storing maybe confidential information into some public place with a free or paid account or something like that. If we don't have control about where our data is being stored on it, then maybe we can store it into a place that everyone can access, and maybe our organization data or documents are already exposed, basically. Next part is just for the component of the infrastructure next to the applications on it. And whether on-premise servers, cloud-based, virtual machines, container-based applications, or microservice approach, represents the infrastructure represents a critical threat vector because we can assess for version, configuration, just-in-time access to harden defense. Use also telemetry to detect attacks and anomalies and automatically block and flag risky behavior and take proactive action. And next element is the network. All data is ultimately access over network infrastructure. Networking controls can provide critical in-pipe controls to enhance the visibility and to help prevent attackers from moving laterally across the network. Network should be segmented, including micro-segmentation with subnetting, for example, and with security group controls or network access control list, uh, and real-time threat protection, end-to-end encryption, monitoring, and analytics should be employed. And we have also the data component. Ultimately, security teams are focused on protecting data. Where possible, data should remain safe even if it leaves the devices on. If it's leaving the apps, the infrastructure, and network that the organization controls. So the data should be identified, classified, labeled, and eventually encrypted or controlled by policies like DLP policies, data loss prevention on it. That the data, that piece of binary information, that document, for example, is uh, has a stick label that the policies that we can set up, like DLP, can help us to prevent to overexpose that data or that document, for example. Protecting with that policy, preventing downloading it, print it, share it across emails or by any other type of connection or communication available. So the data need to be classified, labeled, encrypted, and access restricted based on those attributes, basically. And finally, threat protection and governance, telemetry and analytics from the above six foundational elements feed into the threat protection system with the zero trust architecture. Large amount of telemetry and analytics enriched by threat intelligence generate high quality risk assessments, that can either be manually investigated or automated. So the risk assessment feed into the policy engine for real-time automated threat protection. Each of these elements serve as a source of the signal. So a control plane for enforcement and a critical resource to defend. We should appropriately spread our investments across each of these elements for achieving the maximum protection that our organization requires. We can take a look at some of the examples of use cases on it. Defending against ransomware, for example. Defending against this type of attacks like ransomware is difficult due to the sophisticated and to the evolving tactics used by the attackers, such as polymorphic malware, multi-vectors attacks, combined with the persistent vulnerability of human error through phishing. And additionally, modern ransomware not only encrypts the data, but also steal it, threatening to release sensitive information if the ransom isn't paid. So many organizations also face resource constraints, lacking the expertise and the tools to implement that robust cybersecurity measures and making them more susceptible to this type of attacks. So why is recovering from this type of attack so hard? Because well, business continuity plans are outdated or does not include our entire network being down and backups deleted, for example, or because data has already been stolen or critical infrastructure is down, or also we need to consider that if we just consider paying the ransom doesn't undo the damage from critical systems being down or remove the attacker, and we don't have a guarantee that we are going to recover the data or the information on it. So paying the ransom is not like uh, the best idea most of the times. For this kind of situations, we should have the all the layers of protection available to detect and mitigate the attack before it actually happen. And if we can't, then we can have another way that is recovering basically. If we have the backup policies properly configured, we should be able to recover to a point in time, for example, before the attack on it. But this is where we, as the organization, we can plan and design a couple of concepts associated to recovery that is the RTO and the RPO, recovery time objective and recovery point objective. These two concepts are associated with how much time my system can be down and the minimum time that I need to recover when something happens. And that's for the recovery time objective. To make sure that I have a strategy that I can recover in less this time, that this time, that usually we can see these numbers or these metrics into minutes. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, the time that the organization defines before consider that a catastrophic event that we cannot recover from that. And the recovery point objective, it's defined by the backup strategy on it. How much in the terms of the time data can I can the organization lose? Uh, because I can recover to a point in time, but to recover to the most recent one, it's maybe because I have my backup frequency pretty short. So I'm taking backups every hour or something like that. So I know that with that strategy, I can lose data for at most an hour because every hour I'm taking the backups basically. How can we protect against the ransomware? So to create an effective response plan, we can adopt the zero trust culture that assumes the breach and maintains the good security hygiene. And we can implement robust data recovery and backup systems, ensure secure access, keep software and appliances updated, and enforce zero trust validation with Azure AD conditional access. configure third-party VPN security, deploy Azure point-to-site VPN, for example, encrypting the channels for communication from the device to a virtual network, publish on-premise web applications with Azure AD application proxy, providing the security with the proxy service, and by securely authenticate requests, secure Azure resources with Azure Bastion, protecting from overexposing ports to the public internet, for example, and protecting the remote connections also, and regularly backup critical systems, protecting backup from erasure and encryption. And we should exercise also the business continuity and disaster recovery plans. Those should be plans that we should exercise. That it's better to just have the plan and test the plan uh, instead of waiting for something to happen, and then I don't have the plan, so we cannot just recover basically. Exercise or business continuity and disaster recovery plan, and safeguard the recovery documents like restoration procedures, configuration databases, and network diagrams, and consider the updates for those plans on it. We cannot recover to an efficient plan if the plan does not adapt to the dynamic workloads that we are using. Because every day we can have changes, and especially if we are just using the cloud technologies, for example, every day we can create and destroy resources really quick. We have that agility. But at the same time, if we have a plan that considers resources and workloads that we had the last month, maybe it's not the same resources that we have 30 days after that on. So maybe our plan is not up to date for the new resources, basically. So we should continuously monitor and update the plans for business continuity and disaster recovery. We should also prevent the attacker from getting in, deploying the Microsoft Cloud and on-premises security features and services for layers of protection and mitigation against ransomware attacks. We should harden the security perimeter by leveraging best-in-class security workloads across the endpoints, email and data, cloud applications, identities and infrastructure, as well as deploying a comprehensive prevention, detection, and response capabilities on it. Integrated XDR tools like Microsoft 365 Defender, SIM tools like Sentinel provide that high quality alerts, minimizing the friction and manual steps during response on it. And also to protect the critical data from compromises. Uh, Minimize the financial leverage the attacker has on your organization through the tight permissions, encryption, immutable offline backups. So it costs less for our organization to recover from an attack than to pay the ransom, for example. And limiting the blast radius of the attacker by protecting the admin and priority accounts, and quickly respond to attacks, making it too hard for attackers to get any admin or priority account credentials and perform the administrative task without being detected on. Well, we we have the first hour of the session, so I think that it's a good time for taking a 5 minute break so we can just clear the head a little bit. If you have some questions, you can ask your questions using the chat. I don't see any comments so far here in the chat, but if you have any questions, you can leave your question there. And but we can just make a quick pause. We can go for a refill of our drink, coffee, or tea, or whatever you are drinking, or making a step to the restroom, or going for a snack. Um, and well, we can just go for that break for 5 minutes. We can return and continue with the last part of this webinar session. Okay. So, guys, we are resuming the presentation in the next 5 minutes. So far, thank you so much for your attention, so your time and attention, and see you in 5 minutes to continue. Okay, guys, I'm back and ready. Please, you can give me a confirmation, like a thumbs up, if you are also here and ready and available to continue. All right, perfect. Thank you for the ones confirming, Stefan, Maria, Rory, Shaila. Perfect. Thank you. I can see that you're paying attention then. All right. Let's recover presentation here on defending against a specific type of attack like the business email compromise or the VEC. Let's take a look at a case study for VEC and AITM on it. Let's take a look at a story of a thwarted attack. This is a real observed business email compromise attack. As we can see, a user received a phishing email that is included in an HTML attachment. When the attachment is opened, a login prompt is used to verify the user, resulting in the credentials being stolen. Once the attacker has the stolen cookie, they can begin mailbox recon, create inbox rules that helps them to hide their tracks as they begin their real efforts. And sending an email to accounts payable. And if we look at this business email compromise attack closely, we see that it will normally take the SOC like a 4, 5.5 hours to respond. And at this point, the attacker has already locked the user out of their account and sent tons of emails to Fish for financial information on it. And with attack disruption, Defender disrupted the attack within the next 3 to 3.5 hours, minimizing the impact and stopping the attack before the account team received confirmation uh, from the user. The second scenario, the AITM, the research team continues to increase the attack disruption effectiveness and confidence as we integrate more and more signals, enable us to shift even further left and stopping attacks early in the kill chain. So due to our AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning models, we were able to detect another advanced attack pattern called the adversary in the middle, where an attacker tricks a user to providing their credentials to a site owned by an attacker. And Defender XDR can recognize this, and we are able to disrupt the attack even sooner. So with attackers only taking 3 minutes to use stolen credentials, response time is critical, and this is where automatic attack disruption is a superpower for um, to include from a security operations center team. And let's take a look at how we can transform the SOC productivity with the help of the Gen AI tools on it. Like, for example, introducing the Copilot for Security for the SOC. To deliver value to security teams, we want to improve two core things. We want to help security teams to operate more efficiently so they can outpace the adversaries, and we want every analyst to direct their attention to incidents that matter, resolve them more efficiently, and do so with all the critical context and the guidance on. And we want to upskill the team so they can perform more tasks using the limited expertise that they have. What it means is that our junior team members can perform more advanced tasks, and the senior ones can focus on the hardest and more strategic problems. So, regardless of their experience, all or analysts should perform the work in a consistent, transparent, and in a thorough way. And together, we see that these two improvements will help drastically to improve the effectiveness of a security program by reducing the time that it takes to respond to threats, refocusing from reactive to proactive tasks, basically, and better understand the kinds of risks that the security team is up against. And Copilot for Security can help us to deliver these improvements across these four areas on it. Identify and prioritize with built-in context, accelerate the full resolution for every incident, prevent breaches with dynamic threat insights, and elevate the analyst with intelligent assistance also. For security analysts, the rapid threat investigation and response are top of mind to streamline their workflows. And yes, Alex, there will be a recording available provided after session. And well, to streamline their workflows, and they need a tool that help them to monitor of the alerts and efficiently triage the alerts queue. So this is where Security Copilot steps in on, offering a guided experience for incident investigation and response on it. So we can dive into a multi-stage attack incident that demands an SOC analyst attention. And this analyst could be of any skill level, and in any case, Security Copilot emerges as guiding companion, anticipating their needs and understanding their intent. And Security Copilot provides the analyst with a succinct incident summary, making it significantly easier for the analyst to understand what's going on quickly on. And it serves as a trusted guide throughout the entire process and offers that step-by-step guidance tailored to a specific incident, directed to analysts and to triage, investigation, containment, and remediation steps, all at the click of a button. And finally, Security Copilot can generate a customizable, ready-to-share reports that captures all the activities related to the incident. And this captures all the activities related to the incident. This not only saves valuable time, but also enables the analyst to swiftly refocus on high priority uh, security tasks, basically. And the research shows that the proactively hunting for threats leads to a decrease in a high severity incidents and enables organizations to remain a step ahead of attackers. To date, this practice has been limited to experienced analysts that have the knowledge about using KQL, like we can see on the screen, for example, custom query language that help through the large to query through large volumes of data and correlate information on. But now Security Copilot scales that advanced hunting to a skill level. It enables the analyst to use natural language to prompt Security Copilot to craft complex KQL queries and simplifying the threat hunting across multiple assets domains, including endpoints, emails, identities, cloud apps, and the data. And additionally, offering the transparency and allowing the analyst to understand how their instructions translate into KQL queries and comprehend the queries inner workings also. So we don't need to be masters on KQL, for example, on it to use a tool like that. We can also elevate the analyst with intelligence assistant. Understanding, for example, reverse engineering malware has to date, again, only been accessible to the most advanced incident responders. Security Copilot is changing the game for security analysts. It serves as an instant code and analyst expert and is capable of analyzing the complex PowerShell scripts and translating them into an easily digestible language, complete with insights into the precise actions taken by attackers on. And additionally, Security Copilot excels the at efficiently extracting and connecting indicators found within the script to their corresponding entities in a customer environment. How can we protect identities also? What does the modern identity security look like here? Using IAM for identity and access management, combining with extended detection response, so we get identity threat detection and response, ITDR, that uses or requires robust capabilities both pre and post breach. And how can we just implement that? And why choosing on it? As we may guess, here are the Microsoft offering for IAM and XDR, ITDR. Um, the expertise in identity and security to deliver the comprehensive ITDR with the customers. Together, Intro-ID and the unified security operations bring together capabilities across the full life cycle of identity threats. So from preventing breaches with comprehensive coverage and tailored posture improvement recommendations to detecting advanced identity threats with a powerful detection and real-time incident correlation that uncovers the uh, related non-identity alerts. And when an attack happens, the built-in pre-configured response capabilities enable the identity and security team to remediate threats with the speed and the scale and the accuracy of the AI, basically. Defender for Identity and Defender XDI will be of limited utility if they only secure customers' Microsoft Cloud workloads. This diagram indicates their protection extends also to the on-premise, other identity solutions, and including other clouds and on-premise resources too. We can Microsoft also combines the user entity and behavior analytics with other indicators um, of compromise to detect activities, including those on the right of the slice. The recon, credential access, lateral movement, and the persistent or domain dominance, and the ability of an attacker to retain access after one or more entry points have been removed. And all into a unified platform, basically, where we can um, combine here the tools for the identity administration with the SOC analyst from a unified platform. For example, using the Defender portal. Intra-ID, the evolution of Azure Active Directory, if you just know or from that name from the past, like a couple of years ago, Intra-ID provides that full feature platform with capabilities for our partner customers to secure access for a connected world. Intra-ID can help us with secured adaptive access, seamless user experiences, and also with a unified uh, management also, providing features like a single sign-on to all applications, as well as multi-factor authentication and passwordless, conditional access and continuous access evaluation, risk-based conditional access policies, and self-service and user tools, applications portal, password resets, and more from a completely managed directory in the cloud. Defender for Identity, along with Microsoft 365 Defender, deliver that full identity threat detection and response solution. And together, this brings signals from all of identity systems on it, whether intra-ID, on-premises, intra-ID, Active Directory Federation services, or third-party solutions like Okta. Together, where the industry leading intelligence and analytics can be applied to effectively prevent, detect, and respond to threats. And now Microsoft introduces Defender for Identity as the answer to deal with this risk. 365 Defender compares the actual configuration of customer identity systems to security baselines and providing guidance on changes that will promote the better posture and security hygiene, enabling them to prevent many attacks before actually they happen. Protecting the endpoints, uh, endpoint detection or EDR and response isn't enough because an EDR solution focuses on endpoint security only. So we are considering this as just an EDR solution, a siloed endpoint alert option. So we need security tools that can help us to protect identities, applications, cloud workloads, and so on. If we compare this with the integration of XDR, well, XDR combined with EDR, endpoint detection and response with Defender, provides a holistic security and signal correlation across identity, email, endpoints, cloud apps, data loss prevention, security, and more. Provides an incident-based investigation and response experience and help us to protect against the advanced attacks such as ransomware and business email compromises. And Defender for Endpoint is the complete endpoint security platform, enabling the organizations to discover, enroll, and secure Windows, macOS, Linux, Android, iOS, and network devices against sophisticated threats for this type of common devices, including mobile. So some of its capabilities are vulnerability management, attack surface reduction, next generation protection, endpoint detection and response, and auto investigation and remediation. So Microsoft provides a fully integrated threat protection solution that delivers the impactful improvements where it matters for the security operations centers, lowering the risk of the breach into a 60%, reduce the time to threat mitigation, the MTT response, by 88%, and redeploy security analyst time with of 75% for a higher SOC improve of productivity. And recent studies that was recently conducted by the Microsoft Office of Chief Economists showed um, a promising output data that was randomized controlled trial where some participants were given Copilot for security and some were not. And they were asked to complete the same security task. Those who did get to use the Copilot were 44% more accurate and 26% faster. And there was also an overwhelming positive sentiment, as well as we can see on the right here. 97% of participants um, wanting to use Copilot next time they to perform the same task. So more great data points that show that Security Copilot increases speed and the accuracy, and we continue to work on more data to exhibit the value, and can't wait to share more for that. So we can now finally transition to demonstration. Allow me here for a second. Um Sharing with you this guided demonstration. Let me just select a window to share. That is this one. A guided demo from XDR with Copilot, the embedded version of the Copilot Gen AI assistant tool, with the XDR platform, that the Microsoft security platform. So we can here start the guided demo on it. And well, we're just basically following instructions into this demo, like if we are accessing to a real environment and into the real portal. But we go for the incident and alerts menu on the left vertical menu from the Microsoft Defender for the root group organization for this demo on it. So we're expanding here and we're accessing to the incidents. Then into the incidents, we are going to take a look at a specific type of detection that detected as a ransomware. So we're going to show the power of Microsoft Defender XDR, which stands for the extended detection and response. And we're going to click on an incident called multi-stage incident involving initial access and command and control, including ransomware, and on multiple endpoints reported by multiple sources on it. So we're clicking on it, and we are redirected to the details from that detected incident with a multi-stage incident involving, where we can just access to the attack story. We can see a time lapse of every event associated with the alert, the number of alerts related to this multi-stage incident, the number of assets involved, investigations, the evidence and responses, and a summary. We can see the built-in embedded Copilot version here that is giving me a summary of the incident on it. For example, collecting all the information from the story, alerts, assets, investigations, and helping me to make quicker on taking a look at just as the summary. And if we take a look at the summary, the security incident occurred is giving me the time lapse between this date involving a high severity ransomware. The attack started at a hands-on keyboard attack on multiple devices, including Park City Win 10R and Park City Win 10S, a couple of devices properly enrolled for Defender for Endpoint, for example. But in this case, we are inside the incident, and the first thing I would like to point out is that the top of the incident in yellow, Defender has automatically protected the organization using the attack disruption feature. This means that Defender has automatically contained the attack, and it cannot cause any further harm but I need to go for an investigation. So if I can prevent this attack in the future, I can use this information and I can use the help of the Copilot. The next thing I want to point out, the Copilot in Defender and Better Experience is showing a non-technical incident summary. Now our security team or really anyone can quickly understand what happened inside of the incident, including the junior from the SOC team, for example. And they can just read the Copilot incident summary and then dive into the alerts to learn more about what happened. For example, into the alerts and the attack history, I can click there. I will exit the playback because the playback gives me all event by event for taking a look at the attack history. This will allow me to gain a better understanding of what occurred in this attack, all of the events involved. And then I'm just focusing on a specific alert called the suspicious Microsoft Cloud token fetch. So we can better understand what is going on. I can click on it and then I can see and navigate through the alert details on it, where I can see what is the minor attack techniques involved, as well as I can contract this to see the defender graph and the map. For example, I can just examine the part of this alert that shows the PowerShell script that the attacker used in this case. And I'm not a programmer, but I do not write a script for PowerShell, but I will have had to escalate this to someone else in the organization to interpret what this script was doing. So the first command line, we see the script, but it's obfuscated, which means that it's encrypted, so we cannot easily read it. For example, by scrolling down and horizontally, uh, I can just copy and take a look at the entire script. Well, the space is too short on it. The second section shows the script has been decoded, so I can see the commands that run. So this is better, but I still do not understand what the script does on it. So, but I can now use the power of Copilot embedded to analyze the script and give me a non-technical summary on it. So I can just click here on the little Copilot icon to analyze, and it will generate that analysis and translate that PowerShell syntax to a description, a human description for the script analysis, for example. So I can see here that Copilot script analysis reported that this script is retrieving the primary refresh token to access cloud resources. Also saved the script to a temporary directory on the computer, and it also downloaded the Mimikatz to extract the sensitive information, such as password hashes, PIN codes, and reverse tickets from the memory. And this is very bad, but remember, Defender has stopped this attack already. Uh, have you ever had an attack like this in your organization? And well, I can scroll down to read the step-by-step description or summary. The script sends a request. The script defines a function called get user PRT token to attempt to do this and that. I can click on show the code. The script calls this, and the script downloads this executable file from this source and save it as a notepad.exe in the temporary directory on it. And then the script downloads the mimikatz underscore trunk.zip file from this repository on GitHub and save it to the mecantep in the temporary directory on. So with this, we can just see how the Copilot embedded version can help us to empower the SOC teams on it. And with this, we're just finishing with the today's webinar session, guys. So I would like you to thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your participation today. If you have some questions, you can ask or write your questions into the chat. If you don't have any question and you just need to leave, thank you so much for your time, attention, and participation today. Have a good rest of your day, and pay attention to the different announcements for different events like this ones we productive. And I hope you to see you in future sessions, guys. Thank you so much and see you later.
Asriel, do you have a question? Apparently not. Well, thank you so much, Eduardo, and thank you everyone for joining the session. As mentioned before, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Oh, okay. And we will see you next time.